The morning sun streamed through the stained glass windows of St. Catherine's Convent, casting colorful patterns across the wooden floor where Sister Maria Gonzalez knelt in prayer. At 82 years old, her knees protested, but she had long ago learned to ignore such discomforts. Her silver hair peeked out from beneath her habit, and the wrinkles on her face told stories of a life fully lived. As the bell rang, signaling the end of morning prayers, Sister Maria rose slowly, her joints creaking like the old wooden pews. She nodded to her fellow sisters as they filed out of the chapel, but her eyes lingered on the dusty upright piano tucked into the corner. A small smile played across her lips as she remembered last night's session, just her and the keys in the quiet darkness after everyone had gone to bed. "Sister Maria," called Sister Agnes, one of the younger nuns at 65. "Aren't you coming for breakfast?" "I'll be along shortly," Sister Maria replied, her voice gentle but still carrying the slight accent from her childhood in Spain. "I just want a moment of quiet." Once alone in the chapel, Sister Maria made her way to the piano. She didn't sit, breakfast would be starting, and Mother Beatrice was strict about punctuality. But she ran her fingers lightly over the keys without pressing them, feeling the familiar ivory beneath her fingertips. In these moments, she was 18 again, playing on the grand stage of the Madrid Conservatory, her future bright with promise. That had been another life, before God called her to this one. "There you are," came a stern voice from the doorway. Sister Maria pulled her hand back from the piano as if burned and turned to see Mother Beatrice standing with her arms crossed. The new Mother Superior had arrived at St. Catherine's just 3 months ago, bringing with her a wave of changes and stricter adherence to rules that had grown lax under the previous leadership. "I was just heading to breakfast," Sister Maria said. Mother Beatrice nodded, her eyes drifting to the piano. "You play often, I hear, sometimes in the evenings. It brings comfort to some of the sisters. Sister Claire says it helps her arthritis to hear Chopin before bed." Sister Maria smiled, hoping to soften the younger woman's expression. Mother Beatrice was in her 50s, with sharp features and eyes that missed nothing. She had been transferred from a stricter order, and rumors suggested she had been sent to bring St. Catherine's back in line. "Music has its place in worship," Mother Beatrice said carefully, "but we must be vigilant about distractions from our true purpose here. The world outside these walls is full of such indulgences." Sister Maria felt a chill despite the warm morning sun. "The piano has been here since before I arrived, Mother. For nearly 60 years I've played for the sisters. It's a small joy in our simple lives." Mother Beatrice's expression didn't change. "We'll discuss this at the council meeting later today. For now, breakfast awaits." As they walked together to the dining hall, Sister Maria felt a heaviness in her chest that had nothing to do with her age. The corridors of St. Catherine's had been her home since she was 25 years old. She had given up everything to come here, her family's expectations, a promising career in music, even a young man who had promised to wait for her. All because she had heard God's call more clearly than the applause of concert halls. The dining hall buzzed with quiet conversation as 23 nuns ate their simple breakfast of oatmeal and fruit. Sister Maria took her usual seat beside Sister Claire, who at 90 was the oldest resident of St. Catherine's. "You look troubled," Sister Claire whispered, her cloudy eyes somehow still seeing everything. "Just old bones complaining," Sister Maria lied, not wanting to worry her friend. After breakfast came chores, and Sister Maria spent the morning in the convent garden, her fingers digging into rich soil instead of dancing across piano keys. The work was good for her soul, she reminded herself. Humility and service. These were the cornerstones of her vocation. Yet her mind kept wandering to the council meeting scheduled for that afternoon. When the bell rang at 3 o'clock, Sister Maria wiped her hands on her apron and made her way to the small room where the 5 senior nuns would meet with Mother Beatrice. Though not officially part of the leadership council due to her request years ago to be relieved of administrative duties, Sister Maria had been invited specifically to this meeting. She knew why as soon as she entered the room and saw the agenda written on the chalkboard. Convent Activities Review. "Sisters, thank you for joining me today," Mother Beatrice began after they had said a brief prayer. "As you know, I've spent these past months observing the rhythm of life here at St. Catherine's. I've found much to admire in your devotion and community spirit." The other nuns nodded, but Sister Maria remained still, her hands folded in her lap. However, Mother Beatrice continued, I've also noticed certain practices that have strayed from the focused spiritual life our order calls us to maintain. In particular, I'm concerned about activities that serve no direct worship or service purpose. Sister Grace, who oversaw the convent's small library, spoke up. What activities are you referring to, Mother? The evening card games in the recreation room. The excessive time spent on decorative gardening rather than focusing solely on the vegetable plots that serve our needs in the community kitchen. And her eyes landed directly on Sister Maria. The piano playing that often continues well into the night. The room fell silent. Sister Maria felt 4 pairs of eyes turned toward her, but she kept her gaze steady on Mother Beatrice. The piano has been a source of comfort and community here for generations, said Sister Teresa, who had been at the convent almost as long as Sister Maria. Many local families have donated to keep it tuned and maintained. The children from our education program love to hear Sister Maria play during their visits. Mother Beatrice nodded as if considering this. I understand the sentimental attachment, but we must ask ourselves, does this serve our primary mission? Or has it become an indulgence, a connection to worldly pleasures that we have supposedly left behind? Sister Maria finally spoke, her voice quiet but clear. When I came to St. Catherine's, I brought nothing with me except the music in my heart. I had studied at the conservatory. My family had sacrificed everything for my education. They were devastated by my decision to enter the convent. The other nuns listened intently. Though she had been with them for decades, Sister Maria rarely spoke of her life before taking her vows. The Mother Superior at that time, Mother Catherine herself, told me that God gives us gifts not to be buried, but to be used in His service. She encouraged me to continue playing, not as a performer seeking applause, but as a vessel for bringing peace and beauty into our community. Sister Claire nodded vigorously. The doctors told me years ago that my hands would stop working altogether, but I believe it's Sister Maria's music that has kept them moving, even if just enough to hold my rosary and turn the pages of my prayer book. Mother Beatrice's expression softened slightly, but her resolve remained firm. I appreciate these perspectives, sisters, but my decision has been made after much prayer and consultation with the bishop. We will be refocusing our convent on core spiritual practices. The card games will be replaced with additional prayer circles. The decorative gardens will be converted to grow more food for the homeless shelter. And the piano, Sister Maria held her breath. The piano will be limited to liturgical music only during appropriate hours, and only for worship services. It will remain locked at all other times. The pronouncement fell like a stone in the quiet room. Sister Maria felt something inside her crumble. Not her faith, never that, but a small, precious part of herself that had survived all these years. Mother, if I may, Sister Teresa began, but Mother Beatrice raised her hand. This isn't a debate, sisters. This is a necessary correction to bring us back to the simplicity and focus of our calling. She softened her tone. I know change is difficult, especially at our stage of life, but we must remember why we are here. After the meeting, Sister Maria didn't join the others for the afternoon prayers. Instead, with permission, she went to the chapel alone. She sat at the piano, soon to be locked away from her, and placed her aged hands on the keys. For a long moment, she didn't play. She simply felt the cool ivory beneath her fingers, remembering the first time she had touched a piano as a small child, how the discovery that she could create music had changed everything. Then slowly, she began to play. Not Bach or Chopin or any of the classical pieces she had mastered in her youth. Instead, she played a simple hymn, one that had sustained her through 6 decades of service, joy, doubt, and faith. As the last notes faded into the chapel's perfect acoustics, Sister Maria closed the piano lid gently. A single tear slid down her cheek, but she wiped it away quickly. Acceptance was part of her vows, too. That evening, after dinner, Mother Beatrice approached Sister Maria with a small brass key. The piano will be locked starting tomorrow, she said, not unkindly, but I thought you might want to play one last time tonight. Sister Maria looked at the key, then at Mother Beatrice's face. Thank you, Mother, but I've already said my goodbye. As she walked away toward the dormitory where she would lie awake listening to the silence, Sister Maria held her hands close to her heart. They might take away the piano, but they couldn't take the music that lived inside her. The music that had been her first experience of God's voice. calling her to something beyond herself. She would find other ways to serve. She always had. 3 weeks had passed since the piano in St. Catherine's Chapel had been locked. The silence that followed evening prayers now felt heavier to Sister Maria, though she tried not to show it. She had lived through many changes in her long life at the convent. This was just one more season to weather with grace. On this particular Tuesday morning, Sister Maria was sweeping the convent's front entrance when an unfamiliar car pulled into the gravel driveway. The vehicle was small and dusty, with a camera tripod visible through the back window. Sister Maria leaned on her broom and watched as a young woman stepped out, stretching after what must have been a long drive. The woman looked to be in her early 30s, with dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail and a camera bag slung over her shoulder. She wore simple jeans and a button-up shirt, and carried herself with purpose as she approached. "Good morning," she called out with a warm smile. "I'm Elena Cortez from Horizon Documentaries. I have an appointment with Mother Beatrice." Sister Maria returned the smile. "Welcome to St. Catherine's. I'm Sister Maria. Mother Beatrice mentioned we would be having a visitor, though she didn't say why." Elena shifted her camera bag to her other shoulder. "I'm working on a documentary series about women in religious orders throughout the country, how their roles have evolved over the decades, the work they do in communities, and the personal journeys that brought them here." "How interesting," Sister Maria said, genuinely curious. In her 60 years at the convent, they'd rarely had such visitors. "Please come inside. I'll show you to Mother Beatrice's office." As they walked through the cool stone corridors, Elena glanced around with obvious interest. "This building is beautiful." "How old is it?" "The original structure was built in 1887, Sister Maria explained, pride warming her voice. "The east wing where we're walking now was added in 1926. I arrived in 1965, and even then it felt ancient to me." "You've been here nearly 60 years?" Elena asked, clearly impressed. "You must have seen tremendous changes both inside these walls and in the world beyond them." Sister Maria nodded. "The world spins faster outside, but time moves differently here. Still, yes, much has changed. Some things for the better, some—" She trailed off, then smiled again. "But God remains constant through it all." They reached Mother Beatrice's office, and Sister Maria knocked softly on the heavy wooden door. "Enter," came the firm voice from within. Mother Beatrice sat behind a simple desk, her reading glasses perched on her nose as she reviewed some papers. She looked up and nodded to both women. "Ms. Cortez, welcome. Thank you for showing our guest in, Sister Maria. That will be all." It was a clear dismissal, but Elena spoke up quickly. "Actually, Mother Beatrice, if it's all right with you, I'd love to include Sister Maria in our initial conversation. As one of your longest-serving members, her perspective would be invaluable." Mother Beatrice hesitated, then gestured to the 2 chairs across from her desk. "Very well." For the next hour, Elena explained her project in more detail. Her documentary series aimed to highlight the often overlooked contributions of women religious to American society, their work in education, healthcare, social justice, and community building. "I'll be staying in town for about 2 weeks," Elena said, "conducting interviews with any sisters willing to participate, filming your daily routines, and learning about the specific ministries of St. Catherine's." Mother Beatrice nodded thoughtfully. "We run a food pantry that serves over 200 families each month. We also have an adult literacy program and a small medical clinic staffed by volunteer doctors twice a week." "Wonderful," Elena said, making notes. "And what about the arts or music? Many orders have traditions in these areas as well." Sister Maria felt Mother Beatrice's brief glance in her direction. "We focus primarily on practical service here at St. Catherine's," Mother Beatrice said carefully. "Our prayers and work are our primary offerings." Elena seemed to sense something unsaid but didn't press the issue. "I understand. Each community has its own charism. I'd like to begin by interviewing some of your sisters tomorrow, if that's convenient. Perhaps starting with those who have been here longest?" "Sister Maria would certainly qualify," Mother Beatrice said with a small smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Sister Claire as well, though her health limits her ability for lengthy conversations." "I'd be honored to speak with both of them," Elena said. After the meeting concluded, Sister Maria was assigned to show Elena to the small guest room where she would stay. As they walked, Elena asked more questions about the convent's history, and Sister Maria found herself enjoying the young woman's genuine interest. "Were you always at this location?" Elena asked as they passed through the garden courtyard. "Yes, though the property was much larger originally. We sold some land in the 1990s to keep our ministries running when donations decreased." Sister Maria pointed to a stone bench beneath an old apple tree. "That's the oldest spot on the grounds. The original sisters used to sit there for their recreation time." Elena studied Sister Maria's hands as the elderly nun gestured toward the bench. "Your hands move very gracefully," she observed. "Like they're used to making precise movements." Sister Maria instinctively clasped her hands together. "Old habits, I suppose." "What work did you do mainly during your years here?" Elena asked. "A little of everything," Sister Maria replied. "I taught music to children for 30 years at the parish school. I've worked in our clinic, the garden, the kitchen. Wherever I was needed. Music?" Elena's interest visibly sparked. "Do you still teach?" A shadow passed over Sister Maria's face. "No. The school closed 15 years ago due to declining enrollment, and now I'm rather too old for formal teaching." They had reached the guest quarters, a small but comfortable room with a narrow bed, desk, and private bathroom. "Here we are," Sister Maria said. "Dinner is at 6 in the main dining hall." "I'll come to fetch you." "Thank you, Sister Maria," Elena said, setting down her bags. "I look forward to our interview tomorrow." The next morning, Elena set up her camera equipment in a small sitting room that Mother Beatrice had designated for the interviews. Light streamed through tall windows, illuminating dust motes that danced in the air. Sister Maria arrived precisely at 9 o'clock, her habit crisp and her silver cross polished. She sat somewhat stiffly in the armchair Elena had arranged, unaccustomed to being the center of attention. "Try to relax," Elena said gently as she adjusted her camera. "Pretend we're just having a conversation, which we are. I can edit out any parts where you might stumble or need a moment to think." Sister Maria nodded, folding her hands in her lap. She noticed Elena watching them again. "Before we start," Elena said, "may I ask you something off the record? Something that won't be in the documentary?" "Of course," Sister Maria replied, curious. "Your hands," Elena said. "The way they move, the way you hold them. You weren't just a music teacher, were you? You were a pianist." Sister Maria's breath caught. For a moment she said nothing, surprised by how easily this stranger had seen what many of her own sisters never noticed. "Yes," she finally admitted, "a lifetime ago." Elena nodded but didn't press further. She clicked a button on her camera and smiled. "Now we're recording. Sister Maria, could you start by telling me what brought you to religious life?" For the next hour, Sister Maria shared the journey that had led her to St. Catherine's. Her childhood in a small Spanish town, her family's immigration to America when she was 12, her Catholic school education, and the persistent call to religious life she had felt even as she pursued music. What she didn't share was how deeply she had loved performing. How the applause had both thrilled and terrified her. How her professor at the conservatory had wept when she announced her decision to enter the convent. Some memories were hers alone to hold. As their session was winding down, they were interrupted by a soft knock at the door. Sister Agnes poked her head in. "I'm sorry to interrupt, but Sister Claire is having one of her difficult days. She's asking for Sister Maria." "Of course," Sister Maria said, already rising from her chair. "Please excuse me, Ms. Cortez." "Absolutely," Elena said, turning off her camera. "Family comes first." Sister Maria hurried to Sister Claire's room, where she found the elderly nun sitting in her wheelchair by the window, her gnarled hands trembling more than usual. "There you are," Sister Claire said, relief evident in her cloudy eyes. "My hands won't stop shaking today. The arthritis is angry with me." Sister Maria pulled up a chair beside her friend. "What can I do?" "Tell me about your interview," Sister Claire said. "And then, if you would, describe the music to me, the way you used to play it." Sister Maria understood immediately. For years, when Sister Claire's pain was at its worst, Sister Maria would play the piano for her, the music serving as both distraction and therapy. Now, with the piano locked, she could only offer words. "Close your eyes," Sister Maria instructed gently. "Imagine Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major. It begins so softly, like a question being whispered." As she described the piece, Sister Maria's fingers moved in her lap, playing invisible keys. Sister Claire's breathing slowed, her face relaxing as she lost herself in the imagined music. Neither woman noticed Elena standing silently in the doorway, her camera hanging at her side, witnessing the intimate moment between the two elderly nuns. Nor did they see the thoughtful expression that crossed her face before she quietly withdrew. That evening after dinner, Elena approached Sister Agnes in the corridor. "I've been interviewing sisters all day about their work here," she said conversationally. Several mentioned that Sister Maria used to play piano for everyone. Was she very good? Sister Agnes's eyes lit up. Good? She was magnificent. She could have played in concert halls around the world. Sometimes when she played, I swear the angels themselves stopped to listen. Really? Elena said, her interest clearly piqued. Why doesn't she play anymore? Age? Sister Agnes glanced around to make sure they were alone, then lowered her voice. The new Mother Superior had the piano locked 3 weeks ago. Said it was a distraction from our true purpose. She shook her head. Sister Maria hasn't been the same since. None of us have, really. Elena's expression remained neutral, but a determined light appeared in her eyes. That's a shame, she said simply. Thank you for telling me. The annual open house at St. Catherine's Convent was a tradition that stretched back decades. Once a year, the sisters would welcome the community inside their walls, sharing their ministries, their gardens, and their faith with neighbors and supporters. Tables of homemade bread and jam would be set up in the courtyard. Children would run through the flower gardens while their parents chatted with the nuns about community programs and upcoming events. For Sister Maria, this year's open house felt different. In previous years, she had played the piano throughout the afternoon, filling the chapel with everything from Bach to simple folk tunes that children could dance to. This year, the piano remained locked, and Sister Maria had been assigned to the jam and preserves table. Your strawberry jam is exceptional as always. Sister, said Mrs. Hernandez, a longtime neighbor who had been coming to the open house for 20 years. But I miss your music. My Thomas was asking if you would play his favorite song today. Sister Maria smiled at the mention of the 10-year-old boy who often visited the convent with his grandmother. Please tell Thomas I'm sorry to disappoint him. Perhaps next time. Mrs. Hernandez leaned in closer. Is it true what people are saying? That the new Mother Superior has banned music at St. Catherine's? Not banned exactly, Sister Maria said carefully. Just redirected our focus to other aspects of our ministry. Before Mrs. Hernandez could respond, they were interrupted by Elena, the documentary filmmaker, who had been at the convent for nearly a week now. She carried her camera as always, but wasn't filming at the moment. Sister Maria, could I borrow you for a few minutes? I'd like to get some footage of you talking about the history of the open house tradition. Of course, Sister Maria said, grateful for the rescue from an uncomfortable conversation. She asked Sister Agnes to watch the jam table and followed Elena across the crowded courtyard. But instead of heading toward the main entrance where the historical photographs were displayed, Elena led her toward the chapel. I thought we were going to discuss the history of the open house, Sister Maria said, confused. Elena glanced over her shoulder, her eyes bright with purpose. We are, just not in the way I said. She lowered her voice. The history of the open house includes music, doesn't it? Your music, Sister Maria stopped walking. Elena, the piano is locked. Mother Beatrice has the key. A small smile played at the corner of Elena's mouth as she reached into her pocket and pulled out a brass key. No, Sister Maria. Mother Beatrice has a key. Sister Maria's eyes widened. Where did you get that? Sister Agnes mentioned that there used to be 2 keys. One kept by the Mother Superior, and one kept in the office for emergencies. She said the second key disappeared around the same time the piano was locked. Elena's smile widened. It didn't disappear. She hid it, and she gave it to you. Sister Maria couldn't believe what she was hearing. Quiet, rule-following Sister Agnes. She didn't exactly give it to me, Elena admitted. She just made sure I overheard her telling Sister Teresa where it was hidden. Behind the loose brick in the wall outside the chapel doors? Sister Maria shook her head, torn between amusement and dismay. I can't, Sister Maria, Elena said gently. I've been here a week. I've interviewed almost every nun in this convent. Do you know what they all talk about when your name comes up? Your music, how it lifted their spirits, how it connected them to something beyond these walls, how it was a form of prayer as deep as any spoken word. Sister Maria felt her throat tighten. That's very kind, but... And it's not just them, Elena continued. I've spoken with people from the community too. Former students, parents, they all mention the music. One man in his 70s told me he still remembers how you played at his mother's funeral 40 years ago. Said it was the only thing that helped him feel God's presence that day. Sister Maria looked away, memories washing over her. I'm not asking you to defy your vows or your commitment to this community, Elena said. I'm asking you to share your gift. Just once. While Mother Beatrice is busy giving her presentation in the main hall, the chapel doors are open for the open house anyway. You could play one piece. Sister Maria looked toward the chapel doors, feeling a longing so sharp it was almost physical pain. I haven't touched the keys in weeks. My fingers are stiff. I'm 82 years old, Elena. Just one piece, Elena repeated. For all the people who miss your music. For Sister Claire, who told me yesterday that she sleeps poorly without her evening lullaby. That struck a chord. Sister Maria had noticed her friend's increased discomfort lately, but hadn't connected it to the absence of music. Still, she hesitated. What you're suggesting? It goes against Mother Beatrice's explicit instructions. Elena held her gaze steadily. Sometimes, Sister Maria, the most faithful act isn't blind obedience, but rather the courage to share the gifts God gave you, even when it's difficult. Isn't that what you taught all those children over the years? Sister Maria felt something shift inside her, not her faith or her commitment to her vows, but perhaps her understanding of them. She reached for the key in Elena's hand. One piece, she said firmly, and if anyone asks, this was entirely my idea. I won't have you or Sister Agnes getting into trouble. Elena smiled and handed over the key. I'll make sure the way is clear. 5 minutes later, Sister Maria slipped into the chapel. To her surprise, it wasn't empty. A handful of visitors wandered among the pews, admiring the stained glass windows and the carved wooden altar. None of them paid particular attention to the elderly nun who walked quietly to the back corner where the upright piano stood. With hands that trembled slightly, Sister Maria inserted the key into the lock. It turned with a soft click that seemed thunderous to her ears. She lifted the cover, revealing the familiar black and white keys that had been her friends for so many decades. She sat down carefully on the bench, adjusting her habit around her. For a moment, she simply rested her hands on the keys without pressing them, feeling their cool smoothness beneath her fingertips. What should she play? Bach had always been her favorite, his mathematical precision speaking to her in a language beyond words. But today, her heart pulled her toward Chopin. His Nocturne No. 20 in C-sharp minor, the piece that had first made her fall in love with the piano as a girl. Sister Maria took a deep breath, closed her eyes, and began to play. The first notes were tentative, her fingers indeed stiff from weeks without practice. But muscle memory is a powerful thing, and 60 years of playing cannot be erased in a few weeks. Soon her hands remembered what to do, and the music began to flow. The nocturne filled the chapel, at first so softly that the visitors barely noticed. Then, as Sister Maria gave herself to the music, the volume grew, the notes weaving a tapestry of sound that seemed to make the stained glass vibrate with color. One by one, the visitors stopped their wandering and turned toward the source of the music. A young couple held hands, their eyes closed as they listened. An elderly man lowered himself into a pew, his face a map of emotions. A mother guided her 2 small children to sit quietly, whispering something in their ears that made them watch Sister Maria with wide-eyed wonder. More people began to drift in from the courtyard, drawn by the unexpected concert. They filled the back of the chapel, standing in respectful silence as the music washed over them. Sister Maria played with her eyes still closed, letting her fingers find their way across the familiar terrain of the piece. Despite her age, despite the arthritis that had gnarled her joints, despite the weeks away from the instrument, the music poured out of her with a clarity and emotion that seemed to transcend the physical limitations of her body. She was unaware of Elena standing in the doorway, her camera capturing the performance and the growing audience. She didn't see Sister Agnes and Sister Teresa exchange triumphant glances, or Sister Claire being wheeled in by one of the younger nuns, tears streaming down the old woman's face as she listened. As Sister Maria played the final delicate notes of the piece, letting them hang in the air like a whispered prayer, she finally opened her eyes and froze. The chapel was full. Not just with visitors, but with her fellow sisters, standing along the walls and in the doorway. And there, in the back row, stood Mother Beatrice, her face unreadable. The silence that followed the last note was complete. Then, somewhere in the middle of the crowd, someone began to applaud, The sound spread rapidly, growing into thunderous appreciation that echoed off the chapel's high ceiling. Sister Maria remained seated, her hands now folded in her lap, her eyes locked with Mother Beatrice's across the room. She couldn't read the expression on the younger woman's face, but she didn't look away. Whatever consequences would come, she would face them with the same dignity with which she had played. As the applause continued, a tall, distinguished-looking man made his way to the piano. He was in his 60s with silver hair and wire-rimmed glasses, and he moved with the confident posture of someone accustomed to commanding attention. "Sister," he said, his voice carrying a slight accent that Sister Maria recognized as Polish. "That was extraordinary, particularly for someone who hasn't played in some time, I'm told." Sister Maria nodded, still unable to find her voice. "Allow me to introduce myself," the man continued. "I'm Dr. Piotr Nowak, head of the piano department at the State University. I came today because a former student of mine volunteers at your food pantry, and she insisted I should see your gardens." He smiled. "I never expected to hear Chopin played like this, with such soul, such understanding of the heart beneath the notes." The crowd had grown quiet again, listening to this exchange. "You have a remarkable gift, sister," Dr. Nowak said, "one that should not be hidden away." From the back of the room, Mother Beatrice's voice finally broke through the tension. "No," she said firmly, "it should not." All heads turned toward her as she made her way through the crowd to the piano. Sister Maria steeled herself, ready for whatever reprimand would come. But when Mother Beatrice reached her, her expression had softened into something Sister Maria hadn't seen before: respect. "I think," Mother Beatrice said, addressing the entire room but looking directly at Sister Maria, "we have all been reminded today of an important truth, that there are many ways to serve, many ways to pray, many ways to bring God's light into the world." She paused. "Some of us do it through words, some through actions, and some—" Her gaze remained steady on Sister Maria, "through music that can touch the soul in ways nothing else can." Elena sat cross-legged on her bed in the small guest room, her laptop balanced on her knees. The soft glow from the screen illuminated her face as her fingers flew over the keys, editing the footage she had captured that afternoon. Outside her window, the convent grounds lay peaceful under a blanket of stars, but Elena's mind was racing with possibilities. The video of Sister Maria playing the piano was extraordinary. Elena had filmed many subjects over her career, but rarely had she captured something so genuine and moving. There was a story here, one that deserved to be told. A soft knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. "Come in," Elena called, expecting one of the sisters with a question about tomorrow's filming schedule. Instead, Mother Beatrice stepped into the room, still dressed in her full habit despite the late hour. Helena quickly saved her work and closed her laptop. "Mother Beatrice, good evening. Is everything all right?" The older woman nodded and gestured to the desk chair. "May I?" "Of course," Helena said, moving her camera bag to make more room. Mother Beatrice sat down, her posture straight but her expression softer than Elena had seen it before. "I wanted to speak with you about what happened today." Elena tensed slightly. Despite Mother Beatrice's apparent change of heart in the chapel, Elena worried the Mother Superior might still be upset about the unauthorized use of the piano. Or worse, about Elena's role in orchestrating it. Sister Maria's performance was beautiful, Elena offered cautiously. "Yes," Mother Beatrice agreed. "It was." She paused, seeming to choose her words carefully. "Ms. Cortez, I understand you're making a documentary about the lives of women in religious orders." "That's right. And I assume today's event will feature prominently in your footage." Elena nodded slowly. "It's a powerful moment that illustrates something important about Sister Maria's life and her contribution to this community." Mother Beatrice studied her hands for a moment before meeting Elena's eyes again. "I want to be clear about something. I'm not opposed to music or art or beauty. My concern has always been about focus and purpose, about remembering why we're here." "I understand," Elena said, though she wasn't entirely sure she did. "What I saw today," Mother Beatrice continued, "was not a distraction from our purpose. It was a fulfillment of it. The way people responded to Sister Maria's playing, it was a form of ministry I hadn't fully appreciated before." Elena felt herself relax a little. "Sister Maria has a remarkable gift. She does, Mother Beatrice agreed. Which is why I'd like your help. My help? Mother Beatrice nodded. I'd like to see that video you were just editing, and I'd like to discuss how we might share Sister Maria's gift more widely, while still respecting the boundaries of our life here. Surprised but intrigued, Elena opened her laptop again and turned it toward Mother Beatrice. This is just a rough cut, but... She pressed play, and the image of Sister Maria at the piano filled the screen. The camera angle captured both the elderly nun's profile and the reactions of the people in the chapel as the music filled the space. The video wasn't just about a woman playing piano. It was about the connections formed, the emotions shared, the community united by sound. When it ended, Mother Beatrice was silent for a long moment. Then, to Elena's surprise, she noticed a tear tracing its way down the woman's cheek. Mother Beatrice? The older woman quickly composed herself. I came to St. Catherine's to bring order and focus, to remind everyone of the seriousness of our calling. She shook her head slightly, but I see now that I may have been too rigid in my approach. What are you suggesting? Elena asked. I'm suggesting that, with Sister Maria's permission, we share this video as part of your documentary, and perhaps even more broadly. Mother Beatrice smiled slightly at Elena's obvious surprise. I was not always a nun, Ms. Cortez. Before I took my vows, I worked in public relations for a non-profit organization. I understand the power of a good story, especially one as authentic as Sister Maria's. Elena's mind was already racing with possibilities. We could post a short clip online as a preview of the documentary. The story has everything: music, emotion, and unexpected talent, even conflict and resolution. Mother Beatrice nodded. Precisely, and if people respond positively, it could bring attention not just to Sister Maria's gift, but to the work we do here at St. Catherine's, our food pantry, our medical clinic, our literacy program. I'd need to talk to Sister Maria. Get her consent, Elena said, already imagining how she would edit the clip. Of course, first thing in the morning. But Sister Maria proved harder to convince than Mother Beatrice had been. The following day, Elena found her in the garden, her gnarled hands gently tending to a row of tomato plants. I don't understand why anyone would want to watch an old woman play piano, Sister Maria said when Elena explained the idea, especially when there are so many young, talented musicians in the world. That's exactly why people would watch, Elena explained, kneeling beside her to help with the weeding. Your story is different, unexpected, and your playing has a depth that comes from a lifetime of experience, both with music and with faith. Sister Maria shook her head. I've never sought attention for my playing. It has always been a private devotion, a conversation between me and God, and occasionally a comfort to my sisters. And yesterday, a gift to everyone in that chapel, Elena reminded her. Dr. Nowak was deeply moved. He told me after you left that he had never heard that piece played with such understanding, not even by professional pianists. Sister Maria continued her work silently for a moment, her face thoughtful. Finally, she sighed. Let me pray about it. 3 days later, with Sister Maria's reluctant blessing, Elena posted a 3-minute clip to her documentary company's social media accounts. The video was titled simply, The Silenced Virtuoso. It began with Sister Maria's hands, close up on the weathered, arthritic fingers as they first touched the piano keys. Then it pulled back to reveal the 82-year-old nun in her full habit, her eyes closed in concentration as she played the opening notes of Chopin's Nocturne. The camera panned across the faces in the chapel, capturing their expressions as they listened: wonder, peace, joy, tears. Finally, it returned to Sister Maria as she played the final notes, her face serene, transcendent. A simple caption at the end explained that Sister Maria had studied at a prestigious conservatory before choosing religious life at age 25, and that she had recently been prevented from playing as part of a convent restructuring. It ended with, Music finds a way. Elena didn't expect much. Perhaps a few hundred views, mostly from people interested in classical music or religious life. A small positive response that might encourage Sister Maria and justify Mother Beatrice's change of heart. What happened instead was beyond anything she could have imagined. The video hit 10,000 views in the first 6 hours. By the following morning, it had reached 100,000. News websites picked up the story, adding context and interviews with music experts who marveled at the technical skill and emotional depth of Sister Maria's playing. Classical music forums buzzed with discussions about her interpretation of Chopin. On the third day, as the view count approached 1 million, a popular talk show host mentioned the video during her opening monologue. If you haven't seen The Silenced Virtuoso yet, stop what you're doing and watch it right now. I've seen it 20 times and still cry every single time. Inside St. Catherine's Convent, the sisters were baffled by the sudden attention. The convent's main phone line rang constantly with interview requests, offers for Sister Maria to perform, even recording contract inquiries. The small parking lot began filling with news vans, their satellite dishes aimed skyward like metal flowers seeking the sun. Sister Maria herself seemed the most bewildered of all. When Elena showed her the view count, now over 2 million, and the thousands of comments from people around the world, she simply shook her head. "I don't understand," she said, her voice small. "It was just one piece of music." "It wasn't just the music," Elena explained gently. "It was everything about the moment. Your age, your story, the beauty you created despite obstacles." People connect with that. They see their own struggles reflected in yours. Mother Beatrice, to everyone's surprise, handled the media attention with practiced ease. She declined most interviews but accepted a few from respected news outlets, always redirecting the conversation from Sister Maria's playing to the convent's charitable work. Donations to St. Catherine's Ministries began pouring in. Dr. Nowak returned a week after the video went viral, this time with the director of the city's most prestigious concert hall. They sat with Sister Maria, Mother Beatrice, and Elena in the convent's small meeting room, their expressions earnest. "We would like to invite Sister Maria to perform a short program at Greenwood Hall next month," the director explained. "Nothing too taxing, perhaps 30 minutes of music. The proceeds would go entirely to St. Catherine's Ministries." Sister Maria looked alarmed. "Perform? In a concert hall? Oh no, I couldn't possibly. My hands..." She held them up, showing the swollen knuckles and slight tremor. "And I haven't performed publicly in over 60 years. Dr. Nowak leaned forward. "Sister, you wouldn't be performing for critics or judges. You would be sharing your gift with people who have already shown how much they value it. The hall seats 2,000 people, and I guarantee it would sell out within hours." Mother Beatrice, who had been listening quietly, finally spoke. "Sister Maria, this could mean a great deal for our food pantry and medical clinic. With winter approaching, we've been worried about meeting the increased needs in our community." Sister Maria looked torn. "I would need to practice, and I'm not sure my hands would cooperate for a full 30 minutes. We could structure the program however you wish," Dr. Nowak assured her. "Short pieces with breaks between them. We could even include some educational elements. Perhaps I could speak briefly about the music before you play each piece. And I would be there to film it all for the documentary," Elena added. "This could be an amazing conclusion to your story, from being silenced to playing on one of the most respected stages in the city." Sister Maria looked down at her hands again, then up at the hopeful faces surrounding her. "I will need to think about this, and pray about it, but..." A small smile tugged at the corners of her mouth. "I suppose it would be nice to play on a proper grand piano again, after all these years." As they continued discussing possibilities, Elena's phone buzzed with a notification. She glanced down to see an email from her production company's head office. "The Silenced Virtuoso has hit 5 million views. Major streaming service interested in full documentary. Call ASAP." Elena smiled to herself as she watched Sister Maria warming to the idea of the concert, her hands already moving slightly as she discussed repertoire options with Dr. Nowak. Sometimes, the most remarkable stories were the ones hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone to simply pay attention. The backstage area of Greenwood Hall hummed with quiet activity. Stagehands adjusted lighting levels while sound technicians made final checks of the microphones. In a small dressing room just off the wings, Sister Maria sat perfectly still in front of a mirror, her hands folded in her lap, her eyes closed in prayer. She wore her everyday habit, she had insisted on that, though someone had pinned a small corsage of white roses to the front. At 82 years old, with arthritis plaguing her fingers and stage fright tightening her chest, she wondered again how she had ended up here, preparing to play for 2,000 people. A gentle knock at the door broke her concentration. "Come in," she called softly. Elena entered, camera in hand as always, though it wasn't recording at the moment. Behind her came Sister Claire in her wheelchair, pushed by Sister Agnes, then Sister Teresa, then 3 more nuns, and finally Mother Beatrice. "We wanted to see you before the performance," Sister Claire explained, reaching out to take Sister Maria's hand, "to wish you well. And to remind you that you're not alone up there," Sister Agnes added with a warm smile. Sister Maria felt tears threatening. These women, her sisters in every sense but blood, had been her family for 6 decades. She had nursed them through illnesses, prayed with them through doubts, celebrated with them through joys, and now they were here, supporting her in this most unexpected chapter of her long life. "I'm afraid," she admitted, her voice barely audible. "What if my hands won't cooperate? What if I embarrass everyone?" Mother Beatrice stepped forward, her usually stern face softened with understanding. "Sister Maria, I've learned much from you these past weeks. About grace, about humility, about using the gifts God gives us whether they fit neatly into our plans or not." She paused. "Whatever happens on that stage tonight, you have already succeeded in sharing your gift. The music is just a bonus." A stagehand appeared at the door. "5 minutes, Sister Maria." The nuns gathered around her in a tight circle, their hands joining in prayer. No words were necessary. The lifetime they had spent together had created a bond that transcended ordinary language. When they pulled away, Sister Maria felt steadier. She stood up, smoothed her habit, and gave them all a little nod. "Well then, let's go play some Chopin." The stage of Greenwood Hall was impressive, all polished wood and perfect acoustics designed to amplify even the softest note to the furthest seat in the house. In the center stood a magnificent grand piano, its lid raised, gleaming under the spotlights. Dr. Nowak waited at center stage, speaking into a microphone as Sister Maria carefully made her way toward the piano. "And so it is my great honor to introduce a musician who reminds us that art exists not for fame or fortune, but as an expression of our deepest humanity. Please welcome Sister Maria Gonzalez." The audience applauded warmly as Sister Maria settled herself at the piano bench. Dr. Nowak adjusted the microphone to her level and asked, "Would you like to say a few words before you begin, Sister Maria?" She hadn't planned to speak, but looking out at the sea of expectant faces, many of whom had paid considerable sums to support St. Catherine's ministries, she felt she owed them something. "Thank you for coming," she began, her voice steadier than she'd expected. "I am not a professional musician. I'm simply a woman who found 2 great loves in her life, God and music. Tonight I share both with you." She turned away from the microphone, then took a deep breath and placed her hands on the keys. The familiar feel of ivory beneath her fingertips calmed her racing heart. This was her language, her prayer, her joy. Sister Maria began with what everyone expected, Chopin's Nocturne No. 20 in C-sharp minor, the piece from the viral video. She played it slightly differently this time, a bit slower, lingering on certain phrases that spoke to her in this moment. Though her fingers occasionally stumbled over the more technical passages, the emotion behind the music remained pure and transcendent. When the final note faded, there was a moment of complete silence before the audience erupted in applause. Sister Maria didn't acknowledge it, instead moving directly into her second piece, Bach's Prelude in C major from the Well-Tempered Clavier, one of the first complex pieces she had mastered as a young student. As she played, memories washed over her. Her father selling his watch to buy her first piano lessons, her mother sewing dresses late into the night to pay for sheet music, her professor at the conservatory insisting she was destined for the world's greatest stages, the heartbreak on her parents' faces when she told them she was entering the convent, the peace she had found in her choice despite the sacrifices. For her third piece, she surprised everyone by playing not a classical work, but a simple folk melody from her childhood in Spain, a lullaby her grandmother had sung to her, which she had adapted for piano decades ago during a particularly homesick period early in her religious life. Throughout the hall, people closed their eyes, transported by the gentle melody that spoke of comfort and homeland and belonging. In the front row, Elena filmed it all, capturing not just Sister Maria's playing but the audience's rapt faces, the way strangers leaned toward each other, sharing tissues and smiles. Sister Maria had planned to play 4 pieces, but as the third one ended, she realized her hands were beginning to cramp badly. Years of arthritis couldn't be wished away, even on such a special night. Rather than struggle through a 4th piece, She decided to skip to what she had planned as her finale. She turned toward the microphone once more. This last piece is my own composition. I wrote it over many years at St. Catherine's, adding to it as our community grew and changed. I call it simply Prayer Without Words. What followed was unlike anything the audience had heard before. Not quite classical, not quite modern, but a flowing, meditative piece that seemed to capture a lifetime of faith, doubt, joy, and surrender. Simple enough that even her arthritic hands could manage it, yet complex enough to hold the attention of the most sophisticated listeners in the audience. When the final chord resolved, Sister Maria bowed her head over the keys for a moment, offering a silent prayer of thanks. Then she rose, turned to the audience, and gave a small, humble bow. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Every person in the hall rose to their feet, applauding with an enthusiasm usually reserved for the world's most celebrated virtuosos. Flowers appeared from nowhere, tossed gently onto the stage. In the front row, her fellow sisters beamed with pride, Sister Claire openly weeping with joy. Dr. Nowak returned to the stage, handing Sister Maria a massive bouquet of white roses. Ladies and gentlemen, Sister Maria Gonzalez. The applause continued for nearly 5 minutes. Eventually, Dr. Nowak escorted Sister Maria backstage, where she sank gratefully into a chair, her hands trembling from exertion and emotion. "You were magnificent," he told her, his professional reserve cracking to reveal genuine awe. Absolutely magnificent. The next hour passed in a blur as well-wishers streamed backstage to meet her. Music students asked for advice. Elderly patrons shared stories of how her viral video had inspired them to return to instruments they had abandoned decades ago. Parents thanked her for showing their children that age was no barrier to beauty and achievement. Through it all, Sister Maria responded with grace and humility, deflecting praise toward God and toward the charitable work of St. Catherine's that would benefit from the evening's proceeds. Finally, as the crowd thinned, Elena approached with her camera. "Sister Maria, may I ask one last question for the documentary?" Sister Maria nodded, though exhaustion was evident in her face. "After all this, the viral video, tonight's concert, the attention and acclaim, what comes next for you?" Sister Maria considered the question carefully. "Tomorrow morning I will rise at 5 a.m. for prayers, as I have done every day for 60 years. I will tend to my garden. I will help serve lunch at our food pantry. I will visit Sister Claire, whose arthritis is worse than mine." She smiled. "But perhaps I will also play a little piano in the afternoon. Mother Beatrice has promised to have our chapel piano tuned properly." Elena nodded, understanding the profound simplicity of this answer. 2 months later, a small package arrived at St. Catherine's Convent, addressed to Sister Maria. Inside was a CD with a simple cover, a photograph of her hands on the piano keys, with the title Prayer Without Words, the music of Sister Maria Gonzalez. A note from the recording company explained that they had produced a limited edition of her concert performance, with all proceeds going to a newly established music scholarship for underprivileged children, a fund that Sister Maria herself had requested in lieu of any payment for her performance. The first recipient of the scholarship was announced that same week, a 12-year-old girl from the neighborhood surrounding St. Catherine's, whose single mother could not afford piano lessons despite the child's obvious talent. The girl would receive weekly instruction from a former student of Dr. Nowak's, with practice time available on the convent's newly restored piano. On the girl's first day of lessons, Sister Maria sat quietly in the back of the chapel, watching as young fingers tentatively explored the same keys that had brought her a lifetime of joy. The child was nervous, making mistakes, but her face lit up each time she got something right. "Don't be afraid of the wrong notes," Sister Maria called out gently. "They're just stepping stones to the right ones." The girl smiled shyly and continued playing, her confidence growing with each measure. Sister Maria closed her eyes, letting the simple melody wash over her. This, she thought, was her real legacy, not the viral video or the sold-out concert or the CD that people around the world might listen to, but this moment in this place where music continued to build bridges between hearts, between generations, between earth and heaven. In the end, her gift had never been silenced at all. It had simply been waiting for the right moment to find a new voice, a new purpose, a new prayer without words.